zu uns. Hampus, Nygårds, Barbara, Slowik auch noch einmal. Und Gergana, vom BK. Stellst du dich bitte auf die andere Seite? Genau. Danke. Auch Sie will ich noch einmal kurz vorstellen. Gergana Bulanova-Christova vom BKA aus der Forschungsabteilung für organisierte Kriminalität, Wirtschaftskriminalität und Kriminalprävention, hat die Konferenz inhaltlich mit vorbereitet und steht mir jetzt hier zur Seite. So, wir greifen auch gleich die Fragen auf. Wir haben bis 11:30 Uhr nochmal Zeit und deshalb würde ich Sie bitten, die Antworten vielleicht etwas kürzer zu fassen. Es gibt eine Frage, die sich eigentlich an das gesamte Podium richtet. Wie ist die Einschätzung zum Thema Deepfake und Fake News in den Social Media? Wir erleben seit Jahren hochprofessionelle Desinformationskampagnen gegen die Demokratie. Stehen wir ohnmächtig vor dem rechtsdurchsetzungsfreien Netz? Frau Camilleri, Sie haben eindrücklich auch geschildert, wie die Situation in Marseille aussieht und was Sie dort erleben mit den sozialen Medien.
Well, we have the same problem as everywhere else, and the social media plays a very important role in staging violence and also making sure that people who don't know each other, who have violent behaviors, can come together. So I haven't seen any problems with disinformation right now, but more the social media is a way of organizing unorganized groups. And we had riots in Marseille in June that were very spontaneous riots, and it was the first time in Marseille we had such violent riots, and we know for sure that the social media played a very important role in that, in a way that people came together and organized themselves, even though they didn't know each other, to loot and go in the stores. So we're not into deep fakes yet, but we know that we have to adapt our strategies and work probably with the big platforms of social media to tackle this issue.
Wie erleben Sie die Situation in Schweden? Welche Erfahrungen haben Sie vielleicht schon mit Deepfake, Fake News gemacht? Spielt KI schon eine Rolle in den Netzen bei den Desinformationskampagnen?
I don't have these on, but I think I understand the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so fake news, but if I start with social media, we absolutely have a challenge with that. Just a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, one of those major OCG leaders had a live feed, and it were around 20 to 30,000 people in Sweden actually look into that live feed when he talked about the war and advertise the lifestyle and so forth. So we absolutely have a challenge with that. Regarding to the fake news, it's also a big problem. There is influencers on TikTok or other social medias that actually lies about Sweden and the Swedish authorities taking children, Muslim children into custody and so forth. So it's absolutely a challenge for us. We are working pretty hard to get that under control.
Frau Slowik, die Frage lautet, stehen wir ohnmächtig vor dem rechtsdurchsetzungsfreien Raum? Wie ist diesem Phänomen zu begegnen überhaupt?
Also wir stehen dem ganz sicher nicht ohnmächtig gegenüber. Und Deepfake und Fake News ist das eine, was uns mehr beschäftigt, sind natürlich auch Idole, die geschaffen werden in den sozialen Medien. Idole, die Vorbilder schaffen, die Gewalt verherrlichen. Ich habe das in Ihrem Vortrag noch mithören dürfen und dort etwas entgegenzusetzen. Und wir bekämpfen, das wurde ja ausgeführt, Hass und Hetze im Netz, aber sozusagen diese Idole, die positiv aufgebaut werden, ja, seien es Influencer, seien es eben Rapper oder, ja, denen, und das war das, was ich auch in meinem Vortrag meinte, denen müssen wir Narrative selbst entgegensetzen, auch in den sozialen Medien, am besten nicht unbedingt Polizei und Strafverfolgungsbehörden, weil das meistens nicht ganz so verfängt, als wenn es dann eben aus gesellschaftlichen Gruppen selbst dann erfolgt.
Herr Koeman, wie erleben Sie es in den Niederlanden?
Well, what we've noticed within the Netherlands, and I think the previous speakers have also said it, is of course the manner in which social media is being used to mobilize groups, and especially the the manner in which groups are rapidly mobilized. A few years ago we had an election in the Turkish referendum, of course in Turkey, and within a few minutes groups within the city of Rotterdam were mobilized to go on the street and to act out. So I think first of all the social media aspect is very interesting but also scary aspect. If you combine that with disinformation or misinformation, and you see, and we have in the Netherlands an active strategy of debunking information, so trying to say what the truth is. But the problem with that sometimes is that you don't have the time to debunk. So if people tend to see the disinformation as truth, and you also have that aspect in which people act directly based upon what they read, I think that's a very dangerous combination. And especially if you also combine that with the technology like AI, deepfakes. We've already had a situation in the Netherlands in which a member of parliament thought that he was speaking to an official of a different government, and that was a deepfake. So luckily we haven't experienced very much disinformation yet, but I do think that this will be a large challenge for the future. And well, I can say I'm not looking forward to it.
Danke Astrid, hallo auch von mir an das Podium und in das Publikum, schön, dass Sie wieder da sind. Herr Koeman, um bei Ihnen zu bleiben, wir haben die nächste Frage bekommen, sind die rechtlichen Rahmenbedingungen in den Niederlanden ausreichend, um diesen geschilderten massiven Problemen in der Bekämpfung der OK zu begegnen? Stellt der Datenschutz ein Hemmnis dar?
Unfortunately, my German isn't that well that I can understand. Could you please translate the question?
Well, it is about, I'm sorry Astrid for skipping into English, but it is about how to assess the legal framework you have in the Netherlands at hand to counter organized crime. And Datenschutz is a very important word in German, it is data protection.
Yeah, of course, that's an important thing. We noticed that although jurisdiction gives us many possibilities, we are more and more finding out the constraints of the legal situation at this moment in hand. For instance, the doxing, as I just said, it's going to be illegal from 2024 onwards, but at this moment it isn't. Also, for instance, the use and the ability to use virtual agents online to try and find out, all right, what kind of schemes are being planned and plotted in a new world. They also make us realize that we do have certain jurisdiction boundaries, and of course data protection is a very important right, a very important good, but we are noticing that we have to have more and more discussions with regards to, all right, what are effective measures and how can we maybe even change or adapt the law towards the new developments, especially the technological developments at this moment in time.
Great. Vielen Dank für Ihre Antwort. Astrid, we have a problem because I don't have a headset here.
Ja, vielleicht können wir einfach ein Headset nochmal bekommen, bitte, für Herrn Koeman. Frau Slowik, die nächste Frage. Welchen Bezug sehen Sie zwischen dem Anstieg von Gewalt und dem Anstieg von psychischen Erkrankungen, insbesondere bei Jugendlichen und Heranwachsenden?
Also wir haben jetzt keine evidenzbasierten Erkenntnisse dazu. Es ist mir jetzt auch kein entsprechendes Monitoring oder Zahlen dazu bekannt. Die besonders tragischen Fälle, die durch psychische Erkrankungen zu Straftaten und deutlichen Straftaten führten, die ich jetzt vor Augen habe, sind eher lebensältere Menschen gewesen, also nicht mehr im Jugendlichen- oder Kinderalter. Natürlich hat das sicherlich auch einen Anteil an der zunehmenden Gewaltkriminalität. Ich würde aber eher andere Themen, die wir auch benannt haben, Ursachen, die wir benannt haben, dort stärker sehen, eben wie auch ein Defizit in Bildung, soziale Strukturen. Also ich würde das doch stärker sehen. Aber ich habe jetzt im Moment keine wirklich klaren Erkenntnisse dazu. Das sind nur Vermutungen.
Eine weitere Frage richtet sich an Sie, Herr Nygårds. Wenn Sie anderen Ländern einen wichtigen Rat geben könnten, was sollten Sie berücksichtigen, um einen Anstieg der Kriminalität zu verhindern? Aus Ihren Erfahrungen heraus.
Thank you. I think one very important thing is to have the whole society to have a sense of urgency, sense of understanding that this problem is here, and it's possible that it will expand. From that feeling of sense of urgency, you need to have the whole government and actually society approach. So if you have the sense of urgency, you can build on that. One of the things that we need to do is a good question, by the way, about the legislation. Because in Sweden, I don't know how it is in Germany, but I expect it's the same. This legislation are not suited to this kind of problems. So when you have the sense of urgency, you work close with your government, you can also change legislation. In Sweden, we are doing that very actively now. But from my point of view, the biggest thing, sense of urgency, all of government support and effort, and to work with the preventive measures.
Danke, Frau Camilleri. Mit Blick auf die zunehmende Gewaltkriminalität gibt es Maßnahmen auf internationaler Ebene, die Sie vermissen und die auf regionaler Ebene Ihnen doch helfen können.
Yes, of course, this is an international issue, so we see that in Marseille we need to work closely with other countries and international cooperation offices to make sure that the instigators and the drug lords who have fled France are indeed arrested and prosecuted. This was a main priority of my teams in the past few years, and we've achieved major successes with arrests made all over the world, and more recently in Algeria, where we didn't have a cooperation in the past few years, but now things have changed and it's going the right way. And I think it's very important to show everyone that even if you're outside France, you're held accountable for what you're doing. And this is where we need to rely on international cooperation, Europol, Interpol, and also our local police officers in the different French embassies all around the world with very local connections to their counterparts. So yes, of course, we need to address that.
Herr Nygårds, wollen Sie das ergänzen?
Thank you. I think one very important thing in international cooperation is the information sharing. If you look at how fast the problem changes, how fast problems in Sweden travel to Denmark, to Norway, to other countries, the information sharing here is key. And it's not just that national level need to share information with other national levels, it need to travel from local to regional to national to international, back and forth all the time, because information are and will be one of the absolute most important things in crime fighting. So, information sharing.
Frau Slowik, Sie sprachen von einer Änderung des Verfahrensrechts, um mit dem bestehenden Personal schneller zu Ab- und Verurteilungen zu gelangen. Woran denken Sie hier im Einzelnen?
Ja, zum Beispiel eben an durchaus eine andere Ausgestaltung auch des beschleunigten Verfahrens, andere Regelungen in diesem Bereich, denn die Hürden sind doch immer noch sehr, sehr hoch. Zum Beispiel, ja, das ist eine.
Vielen Dank.
Okay, eine nächste Frage richtet sich an Frau Camilleri. Mit Blick auf Ihre strikte Strafverfolgungsstrategie in Marseille, wie schätzen Sie die liberale Strategie der Entkriminalisierung von weichen Drogen ein?
Well, it's a question that a lot of people ask me, and as a prefect, I can only apply law. You know, the law decides what I think. But however, I have what I answer to the people who ask me this question is that there is no miracle solution, and if there were a miracle solution to drugs, we would have found it. There are many other countries in the world. Some of them have tried decriminalizing drugs or legalizing drugs, and I'm not sure that they're facing the best situations. They still have violence, they still have also illegal markets of drugs. So my answer is that it probably is, first of all, a choice of society as a whole, so it needs a big national debate, and the law is the expression of the people's will. So we'll probably have to have this debate not on a moral stance, but as a operational and police stance as well, and not be too naive about things. It's not just the miracle measure that will solve all problems.
Sehr gerne.
Vielen Dank. Not to be very naive is good. Entschuldigung. Also nicht naiv zu sein, klingt für mich sehr überzeugend. Herr Koeman, welche Rolle spielt das Thema Korruption im Zusammenhang mit Übergriffen der OK und welche Maßnahmen haben Sie dagegen entwickelt?
Yeah, I think we can't deny that there is an overlap between, unfortunately, corruption and organized crime. We noticed, especially with certain data that we obtained through, for instance, EncroChat, that unfortunately sometimes corruption takes place within also the police organization, but also other aspects of the government. And actually, in my presentation, I briefly mentioned that I spoke to two former criminals, and they also said, well, you know, what we try to do is find an entrance towards the organization, and once a colleague, and they often know each other from school, or once they just start with getting a number plate, well, once you're in, you're hooked. So what we've done now is we've developed a program internally in which we make this a lot more, we discuss this subject a lot more. It used to be a very difficult subject that we tried to kind of avoid. So we really do focus very much on the theme of corruption. We also have a team that focuses on dealing with actual corruption, both in the prevention but also in the repressive state. And what we're trying to do now more and more is also learn from other countries who have dealt with a similar problem. But definitely I think an important development is that we make it a topic that we can actually discuss about. And also a last point that we do now is that we're seeing if we can do more active monitoring towards also what our colleagues are doing. And again, that's also a difficult discussion internally, but I think we are in a situation that we can't deny that it's a fact of life.
Okay. Es gibt eine weitere Frage an Herrn Nygårds, die sich mit dem Thema Gewalt gegen Frauen beschäftigt. Lassen sich steigende Zahlen bei der Gewalt gegen Frauen auf ähnliche Faktoren zurückführen, die auch ursächlich für die steigende Straßen- oder Bandenkriminalität sind? Ich hoffe, das klappt mit der Übersetzung für diese Frage.
Yes, okay. Well, from my understanding, my point of view, we are talking about two completely different problems. When we talk about OCGs on the street, we talk about revenge, pride, money, status, all those kinds of things. When we talk about men's lethal violence against women, it's not those motives, it's other motives.
What kind of motives you have there?
Yeah, power over a woman, mental illness, pride, honor culture, stuff like that. It's not that, if you look at organized crime as a whole, we know that organized crimes adapt when we do things. We know that organized crime adapt when they do things to each other, when other people do things to organized crime. This is not the same. This is not the same problem. This is more a complicated problem than a complex problem. So not the same motives.
Okay, thank you. So, eine letzte Frage. Gergana, willst du sie weitergeben? Sie geht ans ganze Podium noch einmal.
Ja.
Vielleicht eine letzte schnelle Schlussrunde. Ja?
Vielen Dank.
Der Zeit.
Genau. In Deutschland sehen wir Formen von Paralleljustiz. Staatliche Mechanismen der Rechtsprechung werden umgegangen. Gleichzeitig trägt diese Paralleljustiz möglicherweise dazu bei, eine Gewalteskalation im OK zu verhindern. Wie bewerten Sie die Situation in Ihrem Land, Frau Camilleri? Bitte um eine kurze Antwort.
Well, we work hard to prevent any parallel justice. We are a democratic state, it's a state of law, and the rule of law has to apply. And sometimes I see people coming to me, or even politicians coming to me and telling me that we need a parallel, more expeditive justice. And I warn them that if we go there, we're going to lose what makes France a big democratic country. And our mission as police is to make sure that the rule of law is enforced with the justice system, of course. And as long as people have trust that the criminals will be arrested and will be prosecuted, they won't go to parallel justice. So this is why our role is very important, and I think that we've managed so far to avoid any parallel systems.
Herr Koeman, wie ist Ihre Einstellung zur Paralleljustiz?
Well, unfortunately, we've noticed the past few years a few incidents in which we've had civilian arrests, or at least tried to have civilian arrests. We also know that criminals like to have a kind of justice system between themselves. Maybe some of you are familiar with the fact that we had some containers were found in the Netherlands with a dentist chair and police uniforms and everything. So that was, well, lucky that nobody eventually ended up there. So yeah, we do see a tendency that more and more situations or incidents of different justice mechanisms are being used. I think it's important for us to keep the rule of law, to maintain also the monopoly on violence. And I think an important aspect of that is, of course, make sure that you're still seen in the villages, make sure that you're actually visible, that you can make sure, and of course we can't prevent all crime, but that you do have those boots on the ground. So that's why also our Chief Commissioner has really done a request towards policymakers. Please make additional funds available for us to be able to enroll more officers.
Okay. Kurze Schilderung, how is it going in Sweden?
Short answer, yes, we have challenges with parallel society, yes we do. And we are trying hard to avoid that. And for my point of view, the best way to do that is to build trust. It's not just being on the streets, but you need to be on the streets, you need to talk to them, you need to build trust, you need to come closer. So they can see that we are actually effective in our measures.
Vertrauen spielt auch in Deutschland eine große Rolle. Frau Slowik, wie ist Ihre Haltung und was beobachten Sie in Berlin in Bezug auf Paralleljustiz?
In Berlin ist es umstritten, gibt es Paralleljustiz oder nicht. Da gibt es intensive Diskussionen dazu. So oder so mag es so sein, dass es eine Gewalteskalation in Teilen verhindert, ist es deutlich ganz klar inakzeptabel. Wenn wir uns, glaube ich, alle auf den Weg machen, diese Gewaltwelle zu brechen, dann brauchen wir derartige Wins aus Paralleljustiz nicht.
Gut, dann bedanken wir uns ganz herzlich für diese Fragerunde. Ganz herzlichen Dank, dass Sie bei uns waren und mit uns diskutiert haben.